Welcome back, everybody. Today, you have seen the title. You know exactly what we're doing. We're talking red, white, and royal blue. Um, Not to be like that girl, but I read the book like a while ago. I think the movie had been announced, but it sure hadn't come out yet. So I've watched the film, and these are my thoughts on it. First of all, overall, thought it was a really good movie. I very much enjoyed it. I thought casting was perfect. These characters, like Alex and Henry specifically, were perfectly cast, like spot on, spot on. The president, Mrs. Claremont, she was fantastic. I really loved. Obviously, she's gonna be amazing. Yeah. So yeah, casting loved it. However, the book in general is better. The book is like more hollowed out. There's a lot of stuff going on with like Prince Henry's sister. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot more obviously, and there's a lot more of like Alex dealing with like the people in his life and like sort of the relationships there. And it's not it's obviously like centered on the two romantic love interests, but like there's a lot more in the book, which I think is really nice. I've seen some of like the deleted scenes and like bonus scenes from the movie, and I'm like, oh, they should have kept that in. Like, some of them are so good, but you can't really fault them for having to do this. I think ideally they would have done like, I don't know, like a mini series or something and made it like a few hours long, but whatever. Yeah, but no, I loved it. I like how they were able to keep a lot of the not so PG things in, if you know what I mean. They had a lot of like just the fun content and the enjoyableness of the book because the book is very explicit in its nature in many ways. So yeah, that was nice that it still stayed in. And it was neat to see that like the whole world was talking about it. It was talked about everywhere. It was pretty mainstream, which is exciting for like a gay rom-com. Um, I'm gonna call it a rom-com. I don't know what else you would call it, but it was nice to see that like that was doing well and it was like representing sort of an interesting experience. Obviously, this is like very much like an elite thing. Like it was like upper class, like the highest form of class, the royal family and like the president of the United States. Like it doesn't get any more like upper class view of gay relationships, but whatever, that was giving it its excitement or whatever. I think it would be interesting to have more like blue collar working class love stories, especially from like the queer community, because those are more common. But it's a good start. I really enjoyed it. One thing that I think is quite interesting is sort of like queer representation, and obviously like the book is from Alex's point of view, the president's son, and what's kind of nice from his perspective is that like he essentially like figures out he's gay and like doesn't really suffer any negative repercussions just for being gay. Like there are like problems and issues that arise throughout the book and throughout the movie, but none of them really center on like being gay. Like Prince Henry has to deal with that kind of like stigma and homophobia and things like that. Um, but I think it was really handled well. There were some like interesting changes. Like I'm pretty sure in the book, I'd have to go back and read, but I'm pretty sure in the book, it's Henry's grandmother who is currently queen. It's not his grandfather. So I don't know why they switched that. Maybe it's because like Queen Elizabeth passed away recently, and so they didn't want to like try and like be imitating her, and so they brought Stephen Fry in, who is fantastic. Gotta say, love him, queer icon himself. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting moment in our sort of culture and society this summer, having this kind of very mainstream and very like upfront into the forefront. And I gotta say, like, I really do like, I'm so, like, I do get tired of like the gay coming out scared of the reactions of family. I get tired of that because like we have all experienced that. It has been depicted in everything, like the young royals, um, in Heartstoppers, like all of these things very much depict like that early stage, but not many things sort of depict the actual like finding an adult romance or relationship. Like a lot of it is just coming of age, and I get that. Like I get why it's that way, But it's nice to have something in the queer community that is more focused on like older people, or like I say older people, but I mean really it's like young adults in their 20s, but like at least it's not freaking teenagers, because it's always teenagers. But yeah, it'd be nice to see like older, working class, those kinds of things. I think that'd be amazing. And I'm not discounting what this is. I think Red, White, and Royal Blue was fantastic and really well done. Um, but yeah, I think, there's like, there were like some conversations that Nora has with Alex that are really, really fun and really entertaining. And I like how they did keep Nora's character and like, again, casted perfectly. But yeah, I don't know. I think it was really good. I'd love to hear your guys' reactions of it and what you guys thought of it. Because obviously, like, it was quite the moment. I can't believe I'm just getting now to my reaction of it and everything. But I was like, you guys have been asking, so I'll tell you what I think. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Red, White, and Royal Blue. What are my thoughts? I definitely like Alex's character. He's definitely my favorite character in the whole thing. Um, Prince Henry, he's like charming and broken in kind of like an attractive way, which is really toxic of me to say, but it's true, if you know what I mean. He's kind of like stuck where he is and doesn't know where his life is going and wants his life to have all this meaning and importance. And, he's just trying to figure out how to do that, which is kind of cool. Um, the cake scene, very iconic. New Year's Eve. I love the New Year's Eve scene where he's just like out of sorts and then they go outside and they, kiss, and Alex is just like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm properly bisexual. And it's like, oh wow, light bulb moment. So yeah, there were some like very sweet moments in it. And I'm happy this film got made. I'm happy it exists. I think the cast was beautiful. Story was great. You really can't like fault them for anything. I mean, the production of it was really well done. It wasn't half-assed in any way. So if you haven't seen Red, White, and Royal Blue, the story of Alex and Prince Henry who fall in love and then try to make it work in the public eye, um, yeah, you definitely should. It's interesting. I don't know. The last thing I'll say, and then I will let you guys go, and I'll love to hear your opinions, is obviously like a big part of the whole thing is about celebrity and the idea of being in the public eye and having like people scrutinize your life and things like that. Um, and I think it's so interesting. Like, I am, okay, first of all, I have to caveat and say, I am nobody. Like, I am a very, very, very small time TikToker and YouTube person or whatever. However, it is interesting about public perception. And like, my only experience with this is um, when I meet somebody who has seen one of my videos before or has seen my content and they meet me in person, they're like, man, you like act the same way. Like, I thought you would act really different, or like I thought I'd have a different opinion of who you were, and I thought you'd be like fake or, just different. Sometimes they're not negative, but sometimes they are. And it is interesting, like the whole idea of like being in the public eye, especially being gay. And I think it's really interesting. You see that in Young Royals as well, where Willem is basically trying to handle being like this very well-known public figure and also being gay, because it's like gay people have this like scrutiny in their daily life no matter what. But as soon as you're a public figure and you have to deal with that kind of stuff, there's like this added element. And I think queer people, we are like, for whatever reason, a lot of people think it's like appropriate to ask queer people like, oh, are you a top or a bottom? And it's like, that is an incredibly like personal question to ask people. And although many queer people like end up making jokes of it and like, ha ha ha, it's very funny. Um, there seems to be this like thing in our society where it's okay to like hypersexualize, especially gay men for whatever reason. From my perspective anyway, like it's like a hypersexualized kind of idea. And I don't know if I'm necessarily okay with that. Obviously, like there are some intricacies in it, and it really should just come down to like treating everybody with respect. But I don't know, queer people seem to get the brute end and the brute force of that kind of discussion, whereas straight people are never asked these things. They are never questioned. It's like, no, that's private. You would never ask the person that, but it's okay to ask me that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there are just these things where, I don't know, it's like a double standard. And I think that that comes out kind of good in Red, White, and Royal Blue, because you see the characters like wrestling with their own perceptions and with how the public perceives them as well. And I guess that's why I really like Alex's character, because he just doesn't care. He's just like, whatever, like you can think whatever you want. Whereas like Prince Henry, like he has to care because it's important to like his family and, you know, his position in life. Like it's all public perception. Whereas in America and in Alex's life, he can kind of be whatever he wants, and people are just like, well, you know, like that's him. You can't fight him or fault him for that. And that's kind of nice. And like another thing in the books, okay, my final thought, I swear. Another thing in the books, it's interesting because you kind of get this sense of like the difference between how Americans or North Americans in general view LGBT stuff and how the British view it. Because, well, especially like the royal family is like very traditional and very steeped in these like the way of doing it and the way of business and things like that. Um, and that really comes off quite well, is that like Alex is from North America. You know, he comes from a culture that is very different than the traditional stiff upper lip British society, which I have like experienced. Like my family's British, and so I've experienced this whole like perception of things. And even like my relatives in the UK have a very different view of like being gay and those kinds of things. Not necessarily like a worse opinion of being gay or anything, but it's very different. In England, they are very quick to like make funny jokes and satirize. I mean, it's like it's one of like the birthplaces of like, you know, that British comedy, you know, Monty Python and that kind of stuff. And so I can remember going to England as a young kid, and the jokes they would make about LGBT things were like over here they would be considered like very offensive and very rude, whereas over there in England it's well, ha ha ha, very funny. And they kind of, you know, nothing is sacred, nothing is beyond making fun of, which is good in some ways, and you know, I don't like it in other ways. I find some of the humor in England, some of it is very good and some of it is very just sad and pathetic in my honest opinion. I watch some of these sitcoms in England and I'm like, that's kind of pathetic. That's not really funny. But that's my opinion as a North American hybrid degenerate. So yeah, guys, Red, White, and Royal Blue. If you haven't, go read the book. There's a great audiobook of it too. Go watch the movie. It's a good movie. I enjoyed it. Good representation. It has a happy ending, which is nice. I guess I spoiled that, but I mean, if you don't know already, like you should, but it's not gonna leave you like heartbroken. Well, unless you're super single, in which case you'll be like, dang, dang. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to hear your opinions and your thoughts. Red, White, and Royal Blue. And as always, I will talk to you guys tomorrow.